The twin suns of New Texas burned low across the wide red desert. Wind carried the sound of metal wheels rattling softly through dust. A lone man rode a hover horse, a rough machine built of scrap steel humming with blue light. His name was Colt Danner. Most people called him the rude cowboy. He never smiled, rarely spoke more than a few words, and liked his drink cold and his peace quiet. He worked alone, hunting bounties for whoever paid the most. His coat was old, his boots cracked, and his plasma revolver hung at his hip, shining like a warning. Colt wasn't born on this planet. He came from the deep colonies, from a place where war had taken everything from him. He wasn't looking for friends or stories, only work. That morning, the stars had whispered trouble. A supply trader told him that a group of human pioneers had taken 2 alien girls from the nearby Tacani tribe. People said the Tacani were strange, tall, graceful, with eyes like liquid gold and markings that glowed faintly in moonlight. Peaceful but misunderstood, Colt didn't care much for gossip. Still, as he crossed the rocky plain, something uneasy stirred in his chest. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was the thought of someone helpless being hurt. He spat into the dust. "Ain't my problem," he muttered to himself. But his hover horse kept moving toward the direction the trader had pointed, like fate had already chosen his path. By noon, Colt reached the edge of an abandoned pioneer outpost, Dry Gulch Station. Once it had been full of miners and merchants. Now only wind whistled through broken windows and old machines. Then he saw them. 2 young Tacani girls were tied to a fence of bent steel. Their wrists were bound with rope, their faces tired from the heat. One looked about 16, small and frightened, with silver tattoos along her cheeks. The other stood taller, her gaze fierce despite her fear. Her name, Colt would later learn, was Syrah. No one else was around, and not yet. But boot marks and wagon tracks showed that a group had left not long ago. Probably to fetch someone with more authority to decide what to do with their captives. Colt's jaw tightened. He dismounted slowly and walked closer. The older girl glared at him. "If you came to mock us," she said softly, "save your breath." Colt raised a brow. "Didn't say a word, miss." "You wear their coat," she replied, nodding toward his worn leather duster. "You're one of them." He shrugged. "Used to be." For a moment, there was only the sound of wind. Then he sighed and reached into his coat. The girls flinched, but he only pulled out a small knife. "Hold still," he said. He cut the ropes loose. The younger girl gasped with relief, rubbing her wrists. The older one stood proud even in exhaustion. "Why?" she asked. Colt looked away. "Because I don't like seeing people treated like animals." Before he could say more, his hover horse gave a sharp warning beep. Dust rose on the horizon, several wagons approaching fast. Colt cursed under his breath. "Looks like we're out of time." He motioned to the girls. "Get on the horse now, but no arguing, unless you want to meet the folks who tied you up." They climbed on, and Colt swung into the saddle. The machine's thrusters roared, and in a cloud of dust they sped toward the open desert. The chase began. Behind them, the wagons grew smaller, but the sound of their engines echoed. Colt pushed the hover horse harder, weaving through rocks and dry bushes. He didn't fire back. He didn't need to. He just knew how to vanish. The younger girl clung to her sister, eyes wide. "Who are you?" "Just a man who makes bad decisions," Colt said dryly. Syrah studied him from behind. "You risked your life for strangers." "Yeah, well," he said. "Didn't plan to." They rode for hours until the suns began to dip. At last, Colt guided them into a narrow canyon. The walls rose high, painted red and gold by the sunset. Here they stopped to rest. Colt built a small fire using dried crystal plants. The flames burned green. The younger girl fell asleep beside the warmth, but Syrah stayed awake, watching Colt carefully. "You don't talk much," she said. "Never saw the point," he replied. "You're different from the others. Most humans look at us with hate." "I ain't most humans." Syrah tilted her head. "You saved us without knowing who we are." Colt poked at the fire. Didn't need to know. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Then Syrah said quietly, "My sister's name is Mela. We were only collecting water near the ridge when the pioneers caught us. They said we were spies. We are not. We only wanted peace." Colt's voice softened slightly. "Peace is a rare thing." She studied him with curious eyes. "And what do you want, cowboy?" He gave a small, humorless laugh. "Used to think I wanted credits and silence. Now I don't even know, Sierra smiled faintly. Maybe you are running from something. Maybe, he admitted. The stars appeared above, bright and close. On New Texas, the night sky looked alive, 1,000 shining eyes staring back. Colt had seen a lot of skies, but this one felt different. He turned his gaze upward. You believe in fate? Sierra's markings glowed softly. Our people say the stars weave every path, but we still choose how to walk it. Colt thought about that as the fire crackled. Maybe saving them wasn't an accident. Maybe it was his path, and though he wasn't sure where it led. The next morning, they broke camp. The desert stretched endlessly ahead. Colt guided them west toward a hidden valley where he believed the Tacani tribe might be staying. Along the way, they passed ancient metal ruins, old earth ships half buried in sand. Sierra touched the hull of one gently. Your people came here long ago. Yeah, Colt said, and brought their mess with them. She looked at him curiously. Why help us then if you think your people caused trouble? Colt adjusted his hat. Because somebody's got to fix the mess once in a while. The road grew harder. They crossed dry rivers and electric storms that flashed across the sky. Mela laughed once when lightning shaped itself like a horse running through the clouds. For the first time, Colt smiled. A small one, but real. Sierra saw it. You do smile, she teased. Don't get used to it, he said quickly. That night they camped under the cliffs. The air smelled of iron and rain. Mela slept early again and Sierra sat close to the dying fire. Do you miss your home? She asked. Don't have one, Colt replied. She looked at him kindly. Everyone has a home. Even if they lost it, he didn't answer. He just stared into the fire until the stars blurred above. Near dawn, Colt's mechanical eye sensors picked up movement. A group of armed riders was approaching from the north, the same pioneers following their tracks. He woke Sierra and Mela. We've been found. Time to move. The sisters gathered their things quickly. The hover horse buzzed to life. As they rode away, Sierra glanced back at the rising dust behind them. They won't stop, she said. Then neither will we, Colt answered firmly. He steered them toward the mountains, where strange blue mist rose from underground vents. The land was sacred to the Tacani. No human dared enter. But Colt wasn't afraid. They rode for hours through mist and silence until they reached a hidden path marked with glowing stones. Sierra's eyes widened. This is our land. My people are near. Colt slowed the horse. Good, you'll be safe soon. And you? I'll move on. I always do. Something flickered in her gaze. Sadness, maybe. Thank you, Colt Danner. The stars will not forget you. He looked away, embarrassed. Don't thank me yet, miss. Just doing what's right. But inside, something stirred, a warmth he hadn't felt in years. As they entered the valley, shapes moved among the shadows. Tall figures with golden eyes and smooth metal staffs. The Tacani warriors surrounded them silently but didn't attack. When Sierra stepped forward and spoke in their language, the warriors relaxed. An elder approached, her robe shining softly in the morning light. She looked at Colt and nodded. A human who saves our daughters. Such a thing is rare. Colt tipped his hat. Just happened to be in the wrong place at the right time, ma'am. Sierra smiled faintly at his words. No, Colt Danner, she said gently. You were exactly where you needed to be. As the tribe led the sisters to safety, Colt stood alone near the edge of the valley. The wind carried the scent of rain and the sound of laughter. For once, it didn't make him want to leave. He didn't know what came next, only that his journey had just begun. Above him, the stars shone brighter than ever, like they were watching the rude cowboy who had remembered what it meant to be human. End of part 1. The valley of the Tacani tribe glowed under the first light of dawn. Mist rolled over the crystal pools and tall silver plants swayed gently in the wind. The air was calm, almost too calm for a man like Colt Danner, who never stayed in one place long. For the first time in many years, he didn't have a reason to move. The tribe had offered him food, shelter, and quiet. But the quiet made him uneasy. He sat near a small stream repairing his old revolver with slow hands. The metal gleamed faintly under the twin suns. Sierra stood a few feet away, speaking softly with her people. Her younger sister Mela played by the water, laughter echoing through the rocks. Colt looked up and his gaze met Sierra's for a moment. She smiled politely before returning to her work. Something about that smile felt heavier than a bullet. He shook his head. "Don't be a fool, Colt," he muttered. "You're a drifter, not a dreamer." That evening, the tribe gathered around a large fire. The elder, a tall woman with markings of gold across her arms, spoke of danger. "The human pioneers prepare a great weapon," she said. "They plan to cleanse this land and claim it all for themselves. It will destroy not only us but the rivers and the earth itself." The Takani warriors murmured in fear. Colt frowned. "What kind of weapon?" he asked. The elder looked at him carefully. "A storm maker. A device that changes air and fire. It burns the ground clean." Colt's hands froze. He knew that name, a terraforming device. A weapon meant for shaping planets, not destroying them. He had helped design a smaller version back when he worked for the Terran Corps. He thought those machines had been shut down long ago. "How long till they use it?" Colt asked quietly. 3 suns, the elder said. "They move it now toward the mountain city. When they release it, no one will survive within 100 miles. Colt stood up. "Then I'm going after it," the tribe gasped. Sierra stepped forward. "You can't go alone. They'll kill you." "I won't be doing it for fun," Colt said. "But I helped build that thing once. I know how to stop it." The elder studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. "You have a warrior's heart, Cowboy." Sierra looked at him, her voice soft but steady. "Then I'm going with you." Colt frowned. "No, you're not. You stay here. Look after your sister." Sierra crossed her arms. "I am not a child. You saved us once, but this time I'll help you save everyone." He sighed. "You don't give up easy, do you?" She smiled. "Neither do you. They left before dawn." Colt carried his plasma revolver and a small pack of tools. Sierra wore light armor made from crystal threads that shimmered when she moved. The hover horse hummed beneath them as they rode through the desert toward the distant mountains. For hours they traveled in silence, wind brushing against their faces. The suns climbed high and heat shimmered off the sand. Finally, Sierra spoke. "You said you built machines like that weapon once. Why did you stop?" Colt stared at the horizon. "Because I saw what they did to people. Those machines could make a planet bloom or turn it to glass. Depends on who's pushing the buttons. Do you feel guilty?" He nodded slowly. "Every day." Sierra's voice softened. "Then maybe this is your chance to fix it." Colt gave a small smile. "Maybe it is." By the time they reached the outer canyons, night had fallen. The pioneers' camp lights flickered in the distance, bright towers of silver and blue. The huge machine stood in the center, guarded by drones and soldiers. It was round, glowing with lines of red energy, humming like a heartbeat. Colt studied it through his scope. "That's it. They're calling it the Atmosforge. Once it starts, it won't stop until the land burns clean." Sierra frowned. "Then we stop it first," he turned to her. "You're brave, I'll give you that. But this will be dangerous." Sierra smiled gently. "I trust you." The words hit harder than he expected. He looked away quickly. "All right then. Let's make it count." They sneaked into the camp at midnight. The guards moved in lazy patterns, not expecting trouble. Sierra's steps were silent. Her Takani grace made her almost invisible in the shadows. Colt moved like a ghost, every motion careful and measured. They reached the base of the machine. A large control panel glowed faintly. Colt knelt beside it and started working with his tools. Sparks danced in the air. Sierra kept watch. "Can you really stop it?" "If I can reach the core, maybe. What happens if you can't?" He gave a small smirk. "Then we'll both learn how to glow in the dark." Sierra rolled her eyes, but her smile eased his nerves. Minutes passed. Colt worked faster. Finally, he found the access port. "Got it." He opened the panel. Inside, the core pulsed like a living heart. Before he could finish, a voice shouted from behind. "Hey, who's there?" A light flashed. The pioneers had spotted them. Sierra turned quickly. "Go, finish it!" Colt worked with trembling hands as she stood her ground, throwing small orbs that created bright flashes to distract the guards. He finished rewiring the final circuit, his voice calm but urgent. Come on! Come on!" Finally, the machine's hum changed pitch. The lights dimmed. Colt smiled. "That should do it. It'll shut down in 30 seconds. Sierra ran back to him. "You did it." "Not yet," Colt said. "We've still got to get out of here." They sprinted through the camp as alarms blared. But instead of explosions, the sound of power winding down filled the air. The giant machine powered off, its red glow fading to gray. When they reached the canyon's edge, Colt stopped to look back. "It's over." Sierra stood beside him, breathing hard but smiling. You saved my people, he looked at her. No, we did. For a moment neither spoke. The desert wind moved gently between them. The stars above were bright and endless. Sierra broke the silence. You said you had no home, Colt Danner. Maybe you do now. He chuckled softly. You really think your people would want a rude cowboy hanging around? She smiled. You're not as rude as you pretend to be. He raised an eyebrow. Don't tell anyone. I've got a reputation to keep. They both laughed quietly. When they returned to the valley the next morning, the tribe gathered to greet them. The elder raised her hands in blessing. The storm has passed. The land lives because of you both. Mela ran forward and hugged her sister. Then she looked up at Colt shyly. You're the cowboy who saved us twice. Colt knelt to her level. Guess I am, little one. The elder approached him. You could stay, cowboy. Our tribe honors those who protect life. Colt hesitated. The wind carried the scent of fresh rain. He looked around him at the shining pools, the smiling faces, and Sierra standing nearby with hope in her eyes. He smiled gently. Maybe I'll stay a while. Sierra stepped closer. A while could be forever if you let it. He looked at her with a quiet warmth in his eyes. Careful, miss. That sounds a lot like an invitation. She laughed softly. Maybe it is. That evening, the tribe celebrated. Music echoed through the valley, gentle drums and crystal chimes. Colt sat by the fire watching the stars rise. Sierra joined him, handing him a cup of glowing fruit drink. You still thinking of leaving? She asked. He shook his head slowly. For once. No, Sierra smiled. Good, the stars must be pleased. He looked up at them. Maybe they finally decided to forgive an old drifter. She touched his arm lightly. Or maybe they sent you here for a reason. He turned to her, meeting her eyes. Guess I can live with that. They sat together in silence, the stars shining above like watchful friends. For the first time in years, Colt felt peace. He had come to this world chasing work and loneliness, but he found something far better. Not glory, not riches, just a reason to stay. The next morning, as the twin suns rose, Colt Danner stood at the edge of the valley with Sierra beside him. The land stretched wide and bright before them. No longer a battlefield, but a promise. He tipped his hat and smiled. Guess this planet's big enough for all of us. Sierra looked up at him, her golden eyes shining. Yes, cowboy. It always was. They walked back together toward the heart of the valley where new life waited. Above them, the stars burned brighter than ever, proud of the rude cowboy who had finally found his place among them.